Hi, everyone. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for streaming with us. Tropical depression Fred is heading toward Florida after slamming the Caribbean. People there could see rain and gusty winds late tomorrow. And the New York Yankees and Chicago White Sox are set to face off in the highly anticipated Field of Dreams game tonight. They'll play in a ballpark surrounded by cornfields inspired by the movie. But last night, Little League players took the field, and they did not disappoint. Look at this hit. Grand slam right into the corn. If you build it, they will come. And the FDA is expected to authorize a third booster shot for immunocompromised people today. Business hospitals across the country are overwhelmed. Officials in Mississippi are warning its hospital system could fail within a week. The state reported more than 3,000 positive cases on Wednesday alone. The University of Mississippi Medical Center is even converting a parking garage into a field hospital for extra space. Victor Okendo has the latest.
This morning, ABC News confirming the FDA is expected to authorize a third booster shot for immunocompromised people today. The CDC advisory panel then set to meet Friday. Director Walensky could greenlight the shots soon after. The news coming as the CDC confirms more than 1 million people have already reported getting a third shot, even without FDA authorization. The desperation to get another shot comes as the Delta variant surges across the country. Hospitalizations now at their highest level in 6 months. More than 17,000 ICU beds in use across the country. Amy spoke with Dr. Anthony Fauci about who will be eligible for a booster shot earlier this morning.
We know now that the FDA is expected to authorize those booster shots for people who have compromised immune systems. Do we know exactly who is eligible for the shot? Can you walk us through that?
Yes, I mean, the FDA will come out with the final determination, but it almost certainly will be, for example, people who have transplantation and who are on immunosuppressive drugs for that, people on therapy for cancer, cancer chemotherapy, people with advanced HIV disease, and people who are receiving immune suppressive therapy for a variety of diseases such as autoimmune diseases.
And the CDC is now urging pregnant women to get vaccinated, pointing to growing evidence that the vaccine poses no increased risk for miscarriage and no safety concerns for women or their babies. Diane?
All right, Victor Okendo in Gainesville, Florida. Thanks, Victor. Let's bring in ABC News medical contributor and emergency physician, Dr. Darian Sutton, for more on this. Dr. Sutton, thanks for being here. We just heard there in Victor's piece, the COVID-19 booster shots for immunocompromised people, they're expected to get FDA authorization today. Then an advisory panel meets Friday to discuss what the CDC will recommend. How do you expect this all to play out?
Well, good morning, Diane. So this is expected authorization is put in place to protect those who are highest at risk, specifically those who are vaccinated and still at risk of a breakthrough infection that results in hospitalization and death. And it seems to be, from my own personal clinical experience, as well as what we're seeing overall, is that those patients who suffer from these breakthrough infections and require significant medical intervention are those who are immune compromised, meaning those who are on chemotherapy, those who are on immunosuppressive medications for autoimmune disease, and those who are transplant recipients, for example.
Now, do you think we'll all be getting booster shots at some point?
So at some point, yes, we can expect that. We cannot expect that vaccines last infinitely. But right now, there seems to be no general indication that the general population needs a booster shot. As we have seen, more than 99.9%, and even more than that, have been protected against severe illness from COVID-19 after getting vaccinated, and that number hasn't changed. So we'll continue to follow it. Right now, there does not seem to be any indication that the general population needs a vaccine, but likely at some point in the future.
Now, the CDC has reported an estimated 1.1 million people have already received a third dose without FDA authorization. That's a huge number of people. How risky is that, and how is it happening?
That is a huge number of people, but we also have to have some context. This is 1.1 inside of over 164 million people who have been vaccinated. I'm assuming that these patients have talked to their providers and weighed their risk and decided that they wanted to increase their protection, or maybe they were influenced by other countries who have recommended vaccine boosters like Germany or Israel. But right now, as I've stated, there's no indication that the general population needs a booster. And right now, what I would also say is that there's no reason to believe that it poses an increased risk. But the question is, what is the benefit? And because these vaccines seem to be continuing to work, I don't see any significant benefit for the general population. But I always help people understand, trust, that if there was a booster recommended, I would probably be first in line because I was one of the first to get vaccinated myself.
Now, we heard Victor also mention that the CDC is now recommending pregnant women get the COVID-19 vaccine. I know many OBGYNs had already been advising that, including my own. But how impactful is it to now hear this directly from the CDC?
It's so helpful to have a clear message across all platforms of the recommendation that pregnant patients should get vaccinated. For what people should understand is that the risk of COVID-19 in pregnancy increases. For example, maternal health is at risk, pregnancy loss, and preterm delivery. And what we know is that of the tens of thousands of patients who have gotten pregnant or been pregnant during these vaccinations, they have not posed any increased risk from the vaccine. So when we weigh that risk-benefit analysis, it is clear that vaccines are protective to pregnant patients and that pregnant patients should get vaccinated.
We're also hearing about travel slowing down now. Airlines are reporting increased cancellations from travelers. So what's your advice for people who are looking forward to that long-planned summer vacation?
My advice is simple. It is vaccination and mitigation. Vaccinate all of those who qualify and mitigate your risk as much as possible. Checking about your local outbreak rates and checking to see if you're going to a high-risk outbreak area and trying your best, and I know it's difficult, to quarantine before and after and possibly even get tested to have that extra level of security. And of course, while you're traveling, make sure that you wear a mask at all times.
All right, Dr. Darian Sutton, always great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the costs of everyday items are on the rise. Prices of groceries, gas, restaurant meals, they all ticked up last month, and more businesses are expected to raise prices in the near future. Rebecca Jarvis has more on what's driving up those costs and what it means for your bills.
The price increases are across the board, but the good news is that in July, they were by smaller amounts than what we've seen earlier this year. Take a look. It's really across the board from your groceries, meat, poultry, fish up 5.9% from a year ago. Gasoline prices up 41.8% from a year ago, and dining out up 4.6% from a year ago. That is the biggest increase in the cost of eating out in a restaurant since 1981. One area that did not see a significant price increase in the month of July is used cars. Those prices are up 41.7% this year, but in July, the pace of price increase began to slow down. And the bottom line here is that we are seeing supply shortages, and those are leading to cramps inside of the business cycle. Businesses are now passing the cost off to consumers, and where you're seeing it is across the board. Shake Shack just this week announced that they would be hiking prices between 3 and 3.5%, and 44% of small businesses that were surveyed in the last couple of weeks say they will be increasing prices in the next 3 months. Now, there is some good news here. There are 10.1 million job openings. That's the positive. The downside of those job openings is that if employers can't fill them, then they don't end up making the goods and services that consumers are demanding right now, and then you see that vicious cycle of prices continuing to go higher. The Delta variant is a wild card here, because if people start consuming less as a result of the Delta variant, you could see a near-term decline in prices. Now, as far as economists are concerned, they're split in terms of how long these price increases continue. Most of them agree that you're not going to see a dramatic decline in prices, but what we're hoping is to see less of an incline, because at a certain point, prices going higher and higher means they eat into your paycheck, and any kind of price increase that you've received in your paycheck, an income increase, starts to mean a lot less. That bonus starts to mean a lot less when you're paying more at the gas station and the grocery store. The Federal Reserve believes this is temporary, while other economists, Diane, believe that this is more of an entrenched issue that the economy will face for a time to come. Diane?
All right, Rebecca Jarvis, thank you. Coming up, it is World Elephant Day. We're live at the San Diego Zoo with a look at what needs to be done to protect the elephants when we come back. Welcome back. Today is World Elephant Day, where organizations around the world bring attention to the preservation and protection of the endangered species. This year, the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance is raising awareness about the plight of African elephants, whose conservation status changed from vulnerable to endangered and critically endangered earlier this year. Let's bring in Chief Conservation Officer at the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, Dr. Nadine Lamberski, for more on this. Dr. Lamberski, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
So walk us through what is happening with the African elephants that caused their conservation status to change this year.
Well, as human populations expand, elephant habitat decreases, and the movement patterns of elephants are changing. It brings elephants closer to people, and that causes some human-wildlife conflict. Really, what we're trying to do at San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance is understand the movement patterns of African elephants so we can better understand the conflict and promote coexistence.
So why is it so important to do that, to try to understand that conflict and protect and preserve the elephant populations, not just for the elephants themselves, but for the environments and ecosystems they live in?
Yeah, well, all things are connected. Every species, every plant, every animal has a role in nature. They have a function to perform in order to have a healthy ecosystem. And that's true for elephants as well. Elephants help to pave the way for other animals to use certain areas by creating trails and paths, by eating some of the brush and allowing grasses to grow, which other animals can come in and eat. Elephants are also great at finding water, and other animals benefit. So we all benefit when elephants benefit because they help to keep the ecosystem healthy.
And so what's being done to help? What's being done to save this endangered species? And what else do you think needs to be done?
Wow. So San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance is working with many partners in northern Kenya, specifically Northern Rangelands Trust, Roteti Elephant Sanctuary, the Nature Conservancy, and Save the Elephants. And we're doing several things. We're working with the Roteti Elephant Orphanage to make sure that, or to assist the community members in not only raising healthy elephants, but also being successful releasing them back into the wild and having them integrate with the wild herds. In order to do that, we study their behavior and the social dynamics, and we try to understand what makes elephants successful. What can we do to increase the success that they will live long and productive lives?
Now, and this isn't just an issue when it comes to African elephants. This is an issue with elephants in general. Is that right?
That's correct. Elephants around the world, in Asia and the forest elephants, all are impacted by habitat loss, fragmentation, and also climate change. Climate change, particularly in the savannas, is impacting elephant populations by extending drought. You know, wet and dry seasons are very common throughout Africa and other parts of the world. But with climate change, those seasons are becoming unpredictable, and we're experiencing that ourselves. Sometimes the dry season is longer, the wet season is wetter, or the wet season occurs during the dry season, and it throws everything out of balance. And this really speaks to that connectedness. You know, the climate change that is impacting us here in the U.S. is also impacting elephant populations around the world and human populations around the world. So the health of wildlife and the health of people and the health of our environment is all interconnected. So when we help to protect elephants, we're actually helping to protect these ecosystems that keep us healthy as well.
All right, Dr. Nadine Lamberski, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, when you think of Siberia, one of the coldest places on Earth, you probably don't think wildfires. But that is exactly what's happening as summers there get hotter and hotter. We're heading to the front lines in Siberia after the break. Welcome back. Siberia is normally one of the coldest places on the planet, but it's currently covered in wildfires. And for the first time in recorded history, smoke from those fires has even reached the North Pole. ABC's Patrick Reevell traveled to Siberia for a first-hand look at the crisis.
What can be one of the coldest places on Earth is on fire. Gigantic infernos burning across Siberia on an unprecedented scale, a climate catastrophe. The wildfires burning in Russia now are bigger than all the fires raging across the globe combined, bigger than those in the US, Canada, Turkey and Greece put together. This the view as passengers fly into Yakutia, a region 3,000 miles from Moscow. But in Siberia, before you can fight wildfires, first you have to get to them.
So we're driving out now, hopefully to try and reach one of the fire teams that are working near the village. We've got to drive over this dirt road. You see, it's not really a road.
We are in the taiga, and it's not easy going.
So the bumper has just been torn off the car on this track. The car that went before us got completely stuck. So hopefully that isn't going to happen to us. Traveling in Siberia, you know.
Swarms of insects mean we need these protective suits.
Made it through that one. It's about 6 kilometers more to go.
We have come to Yakutia because it's one of the front lines of climate change. Much of the region is in the Arctic, and in winter it's one of the coldest inhabited places on Earth. But summers are warm, and this year is seeing an extreme heat wave and historic drought. One of the hottest, driest summers on record. 10 times more fires are burning than usual. Smoke from them has reached Alaska, and for the first time in history, the North Pole.
So this is where we were trying to get to, a camp where the guys are basically going out and trying to fight the fires. Say they don't have enough equipment. They have a tractor over there that's broken down because it doesn't have enough oil.
This group from Russia's Forestry Fire Service, known as Aviales Akhrana, have been here for nearly a month. It is a vastly unequal fight. They say they are short of men and equipment. Afanasi is one of hundreds of local residents who volunteered to fight the fires because of the shortage of manpower.
He's saying if the wind gets up, that will already start to spread all over the trees here. Within 10-15 minutes, it could be everywhere, really.
Я не припоминаю, вот 40 лет живу, не припоминаю, чтобы такой был пожар большой.
The team's main tools are digging trenches and controlled burns like this.
Так бы ловим. Загоняем обратно кракена в клетку.
But there is only so much they can do.
То есть вон, солнца не видно.
Да.
Много очень работы. Не успеваем, народу немного, а площади большие.
When the wind gets up, the fire spreads rapidly. Here, another group forced to retreat. And this is what happens when the fires get past the teams. The flames engulfing this village. Over 30 buildings destroyed. Only burnt-out cars and smouldering rubble left. The record drought fueling the fires has been linked by scientists to climate change. And the change in Yakutia's climate is already visible. Parts of Siberia are warming twice as fast as the rest of the world.
The smog's really bad this morning. You can really feel it in your eyes and in your throat.
People have spent nearly a month struggling in the dirty air.
Уже утро, днем не выходим, утром только, днем как сказать, в доме сидим вообще. Дышать трудно. Много дождей было раньше.
И сейчас?
А сейчас вообще дождей нету. В этом году вообще нету.
All this smoke is a problem far beyond Russia. The fires are releasing record quantities of carbon dioxide. This year, already more than Britain's entire annual CO2 emissions, based on an estimate by a European Union agency.
You really feel the scale of the fire here. This whole area burned only about 3 weeks ago. You see, just as far as you can look, it's all blackened and burned.
With increased temperatures now believed to be inevitable, Yakutia's massive fires are likely to only get worse. Scientists say another sign of how fast and how drastically the planet's climate is changing. Patrick Reevell, ABC News, Yakutia, Russia.
Our thanks to Patrick for that report. And that does it for this newscast. I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for joining us. And remember, ABC News Live is here for you all day with the latest news, context, and analysis. I'll see you back here at 3 p.m. Eastern for the breakdown. Stay safe.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.